Hello, I'm Charles Kovess, Australasia's passion provocateur. Welcome to this week's episode of the Charles Kovess Show. In this week's episode, I ask whether it's your responsibility. Is it your responsibility to take a jab of an experimental injection for the good of the country? The government says that it is. I say that it's not. I explore what responsibility actually means. I urge you to do your own thinking about this issue of responsibility, and I urge you to resist mob violence, mainstream media, and government calls that you should do your bit for the country. Stick around and find out whether you should do it for the country. This weekly show is founded on the formula SA plus P equals S. Self-awareness plus passion equals success. Your self-awareness plus your passion equals your success. Since 1993, when I left my successful legal career, I have been a professional speaker, executive coach, author, facilitator, business philosopher, focused on passion, and my brand is Australasia's passion provocateur. I have inspired, educated, and provoked as a provocateur audiences and individuals to discover and pursue their passion. That is the key to a successful life, a life where you have access to unlimited energy to live the life of your dreams. I have written 2 books, Passionate People Produce and Passionate Performance, both of which are available, and I urge you to continue your education if you can see the value of passion, both for yourself, for your family, and those whom you lead. This show is also guided by Socrates' famous quote, "The unexamined life is not worth living." So I hope I provoke you to examine your life and make it a life worth living, so that you can make the contribution to our planet, to humanity, that you are meant to be making. Now you can see I'm wearing my red jacket. Red, the color of passion. I wear red so that you, when you see red, you don't get angry. It reminds you to pursue your passion. And if you don't know what your passion is, to do the work to discover your passion. Each week, I explore one big idea that can change your life. And it's one idea because too many ideas confuse us. If there are too many choices, too many ideas, it's all too difficult. We put it off and we don't take action. I also share with you practical resources to help you implement the one big idea. A song, a quote, a spiritual tip, a health tip, a book, and some humor. Life was not meant to be taken entirely seriously. In fact, it's possible that this whole existence is in fact a joke. If you look at a photo, as Julie was showing me last night in bed, of how many stars there are in the sky. It was an amazing photo. It looked like 100 million bees all gathered together. Amazing. This is a big universe. What are you worried about? It's time for some humor. This show is definitely not intended to be politically correct, and certainly supports the value of certain addictions, like my addiction to yummy coffee. Now, my friend Peter, this comes courtesy of Julie and also Nespresso. But my friend Peter, he says I should buy some of his special plunger coffee. So I've decided that I will do that, and I'll give you a report on the plunger coffee versus the Nespresso coffee, because some people love plunger coffee more than coffee that's come out of the machine. I'm willing to explore. I'm willing to open my mind to new ideas. I used to get all my coffee from plunger coffees, but believe it or not, I still enjoy from time to time a Moccona instant coffee. Julie's horrified, but I do. My friend Ken Gunn put me onto that. He says his preference is Moccona coffee. I've tasted it. Strength is 12, Ristretto, worthy of a contemplation. When you want to change, I think I'm willing to change. As they say in the classics, change is inevitable. Growth is optional. This show definitely subscribes to the view that as human beings, we have a spiritual life. It plays a big part in all the work that I do. Indeed, my second book, Passionate Performance, in fact, its subtitle is Your Keys to Mental, Physical, and Spiritual Well-Being in Business. So, what's happened in the week before we get on to the big idea? Well, Victoria, the state in Australia in which I live, is in hard lockdown for 7 days. Why? Because we've got 35 cases. This is for a state, the whole state, of some 7 million people. 35 cases of COVID. Do you know how many people are in hospital in Victoria? 2. Do you know how many thousands of hospital beds that we've got? And this whole story about we've got to flatten the curve so the hospitals can cope, we are being sold a pup. State governments in Australia, federal governments, are constantly ramming home this message how dangerous this is. So we've got to lock down, but then the states can't agree amongst themselves, just like in the US, states can't agree amongst themselves. And the cost to the community of these lockdowns is simply madness. We've had Boris Johnson in the UK have a review of his behaviour. We've had Joe Biden in the States proposing $6 trillion worth of spending. I mean, the spending by governments, it's remarkable. We've got all of the geopolitical threats of China, of US, of the Australian Defence Forces, of the geopolitical risks of the port of Darwin in Australia being leased to a Chinese government-owned corporation. That wasn't very good strategically, was it? But you'll be pleased to know that despite the lockdown in Victoria, the football goes on. Spectators aren't allowed, but the football goes on, and the players are allowed to hug each other. The decisions of government, let you just you contemplate that. It's one of the big lies. The check is in the mail. The other big lie is, I'm from the government, I'm here to help you. If you believe that, I've got some real estate I want to sell you. There is also this line, we're all in this together. No, we're not. We're not all in this together with these lockdowns, because big business is thriving. And in Victoria and in Australia, 2/3 of the population are having a great time, because 2/3 of the population work in either the government, public service, not one public servant has suffered, and teachers, they're all being paid as they are in America and England, despite not having to go to school and deal with kids. How good is that? Who's suffering? Small, medium enterprises. Entrepreneurs. This is killing entrepreneurs, literally killing entrepreneurs. And I say the deaths of despair that are going on from these government behaviours are not being counted. The mental health impacts are not being counted. We are not all in this together. The hospitality industry is absolutely devastated. The tourism industry is devastated. The locking of borders. Crazy, crazy stuff. So, that's what's happening. In the meantime, with Julie, we've been having a great time. In terms of lockdowns, I reject the basis of the lockdowns. I ignore them, people, and I urge you to ignore them, because going along with easily giving away your freedom is a nonsensical model of behaviour. And right around the world, there is proven data. There is no correlation between lockdowns and cases. So, Julie and I are having a great time exercising, researching, speaking to people on the phone from all around the world. So you don't have to despair. And if you want to go out for a walk 10 hours a day, go and walk. And if you want to do what incompetent, dishonest governments are wanting you to do, well, then that's your choice to suffer. I understand that. Some people like to make that choice to suffer. Some people would say, look at all the people dying in India. Let me just share with you one number. Every year in India, 10 million people die from ill health. 10 million. And then we're saying, thousands of people are dying a day from this COVID. Think about that. And you'll be pleased to know, regular viewers, regular listeners, that I'm still doing my exercise every day. That is not optional. Just like you eat every day, or maybe perhaps like Phil Mickelson, you do the sensible thing of having a 24-hour fast, which is a great strategy each week. I don't do it. I love food too much. I do my bodily motions, if you like, through hard exercise and 35 years of competing in triathlons. I urge you to be thinking about health. That's why one of the tips that I give you each week is a health tip. Now, to today's big idea before I get there. I urge you to subscribe to this podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the subscribe button below and tick the bell so that you get notified of each new episode. Come and visit our websites, covest.com for corporate programs, for team building programs, for public speeches, and then charlescovest.com for the self-awareness and passion quest. On both of those websites, there's a place for you to get a magnificent manifesto on the self-awareness and passion quest. I urge you to get it. You will find it of great value when you read it. My books, Passionate People Produce and Passionate Performance, are also available on those websites. Now, to today's big idea. Is it your responsibility? The government says it is. I say it's not. The mainstream media, particularly over the last 2 weeks in Australia, is driving this message that says it's your responsibility to have this injection that is allegedly going to protect you from COVID. Regular viewers, listeners know I will never take this injection. This injection that is argued by many experts not to be a vaccine at all. It's an experimental gene therapy. But the mainstream media says it's your responsibility so that if all of us are vaccinated, then we'll be able to avoid these lockdowns. Then we'll be able to open borders. Well, you look at the data. No, there's no promise that if everyone's vaccinated, there are going to be no lockdowns, that borders will be open. No, this country, Australia, is praising itself about the lack of cases. Where is all that going to lead? So you then start to go, well, what is my responsibility as a citizen? That's what I want to talk about. You see, whose responsibility is it for the future of Australia? Well, in earlier episodes, some months ago, I have explored that question. I explore it again. It is your responsibility, it is my responsibility to create the future of Australia. And there's a distinction between accountable and responsible. Who's accountable for the future of Australia? Who's responsible for the future of Australia? You and I are responsible. Now, does that mean you have to have an experimental gene therapy injection pumped into your body, the full date and ramifications of which you don't know, the full safety test of which would normally take years, and many experts that I follow from all around the world say this is the most ridiculous, ludicrous, dangerous thing to do, to put something into your body where the safety tests have not been done. Now, I have been involved in the industrial hemp business for 9 years. I'm now leading a company that's been involved in industrial hemp for 27 years. It took 17 years of lobbying to get Australian governments and New Zealand governments to approve hemp seed as a food, where all around the world it was approved. 17 years. And then suddenly, for an experimental drug, experimental gene therapy, oh, it's okay, quick, few months, approved, override all of the rules and processes for safety, because this is such a problem. You see, your responsibility is to think about that. Your responsibility is to educate yourself on that. And you say, what do I believe? What do I say should happen? And if you don't understand, then I say it's your responsibility to educate yourself. Do some reading. Don't just rely on mainstream media. We're talking about your freedom. We are talking about Australia, America, England, wherever you're watching this, the future of your country, where politicians are arguing that we're doing this for your benefit. I say bullshit. They're not doing it for my benefit, because I have done vast amounts, literally vast amounts of learning and research and reading and thinking about this issue. I am taking responsibility, and I say it is a highly dangerous thing to do, to have this injection of experimental gene therapy put into my body or your body or Julie's body. This is not a vaccine. There are experts. You want to go into that, go and do your research on, is it a vaccine? Is it gene therapy? And then you have all this conversation around variants. And then the conversation is, well, every 6 months or every 12 months, you have to have another injection. Like, how good is this for big pharmaceutical companies? Wow, gosh, I better have another drink of coffee on that when I'm thinking about pharmaceutical companies. So, your job, your responsibility is to be comprehensively informed, as Buckminster Fuller says. Buckminster Fuller, a man who was awarded 47 honorary doctorates before he died in 1983. So why do I say my responsibility is to preserve my health, preserve my freedom, push back against this lack of freedom, and not take this experiment, and not be swayed by the mob violence, I say. Mainstream media saying, take it, take it, take it. And all these celebrities on the front cover of paper, the front pages of newspapers, proudly showing they're getting this jab. Why do I say don't do that? Number one, it is not safely proven. Number two, these jabs now have government indemnity from the Australian government. You cannot sue the pharmaceutical companies for what they have created to be put in your body. The government is indemnifying them from any injury that is caused to you. Number three, there is significant adverse event reporting going on all around the world. Number four, lockdowns don't work. There is no correlation between lockdowns and deaths. And in any event, the number of deaths from COVID are minuscule, less than 0.5% of those who are diagnosed with it. And in most cases, people with comorbidities. And we want to inject the whole population. Can't you see what's happening here? And can't you see this nonsense that having this injection will enable borders to be open? That is a nonsense. That we're going to have herd immunity? That is a nonsense when there's all this talk about variants. You know, COVID variants. Oh, we're going to need another injection for that. We won't do any safety tests. We won't follow the safety protocols that have been 50 years of development. No, because this is such an emergency. Where is the emergency? Don't talk to me about 4,000, 5,000, 10,000 people a day dying in India, because that's how many people die each day anyway. The next reason is, do not be swayed by the crowd. I have a lot of friends around me who say, do the right thing, be responsible, take this injection. I say that's the antithesis of responsibility, and I urge you to do your own thinking about it. And if you just abdicate to government, be willing to pay the price, but don't criticize me for doing my thinking and saying, assuring you that the evidence is not there. If you only rely on mainstream media, you are deliberately ignorant, not innocently ignorant, deliberately ignorant on this crucial issue. And if you say, I'm relying on government because government does the right thing, then you are even more, you are negligently ignorant. Being swayed by the crowd moves. Let me quote to you from a wonderful book by Buckminster Fuller, Critical Path. I've referred to it before. But he says this, the critical path for humanity's survival. And I say that this injection of gene therapy, experimental gene therapy, when you see people being injected, when you see celebrities and politicians being injected, do not assume that they're being injected by what they say they're being injected with. You don't know that. I don't know that. But this book, Critical Path, is about the critical path that humanity needs to take for its survival. And Buckminster Fuller said he wrote it. This was his last book. He said he wrote it to help ensure the survival of humanity. He said in his foreword, I'm convinced that human knowledge by others of what this book has to say is essential to human survival. And he says, human continuance on the planet now depends entirely upon the intuitive wisdom of each and every individual. Well, I'm practicing my intuitive wisdom. I don't trust government. Do you get that? I do not trust government. That's my intuitive wisdom and my actual wisdom. And thirdly, my intuitive wisdom that there's a game going on here. I don't know precisely what it is. I don't trust the buggers. Secondly, he says, human continuance depends on the individual's comprehensive informedness. That's having a comprehensive information about lots of stuff so that you can see what's going on. Then, the individual's integrity of speaking and acting only on your own within self-intuited and reasoned initiative. That's what I'm doing. 4, the individual joining action with others as motivated only by the individual's conceived consequences of so doing. And then, here's the killer for this relevant topic of, hey, it's your responsibility to take this experimental injection. The individual never joining action with others as motivated only by crowd-engendered emotionalism or by a sense of the crowd's power to overwhelm or in fear of holding to the course indicated by one's own intellectual convictions. In other words, Bucky says, do your own thinking. He's influenced me enormously. My father told me to do my own thinking. My mentor, a wonderful Jesuit priest, told me to do my own thinking. I'm passing their message on to you to do your own thinking by being comprehensively informed and then making your choice. And I hope I've given you some factors for you to think about. Now, I got passionate again. I do not consider this a rant. I consider this a passionate expose of what I see going on. And I would give my life for freedom. And in the First World War, when they had volunteers coming to join the Australian Army to go and fight in the First World War, they said it's your responsibility to protect this country. That's one. You know, that's the proposal that was put. To say that it's your responsibility to have an experimental gene therapy injection into your body, I say again, bullshit. Now, take a deep breath. That's about the big idea. Now let me give you some tools around this. So, the song that's going to remind you of this, by Fleetwood Mac, Julie's favourite band, with Stevie Nicks, her favourite singer. Go your own way. You can go your own way. Go your own way. That's the message. Go your own way. Don't be swayed by the mob. Then the mob is trying to sell us an idea. Well, I want to get you excited about selling your idea. I'm selling you an idea. There's a wonderful book by Daniel Pink, To Sell is Human. The surprising truth about persuading, convincing, and influencing others. Spot of humor. You say, I'm going to give you a health tip, and then I'm going to give you the humor. Now, what's my health tip? Well, today's health tip is I want you to read alternative media about the mRNA gene therapy injection. That's my health tip. Do your health a favor. Understand what's proposed to be injected into your magnificent machine body that I say, the universe, that God did not intend to be injected with a gene therapeutic manipulation. Now, that's the health tip. So therefore, we better get into the exercise. So here's my exercise joke for the day. And the doctor tells you physical exercise is good for you. I tell you physical exercise is good. You know you should do it, but your body's out of shape. So one of my sources have said they've worked out this easy daily program you can do anywhere. On Monday, beat around the bush, jump to conclusions, climb the walls, wade through paperwork. On Tuesday, drag my heels, push my luck, make mountains out of molehills, hit the nail on the head. Wednesday, bend over backwards, jump on the bandwagon, balance the books, run around in circles. Does this sound like something to do with experimental gene therapy? Thursday, what a great source of exercise. Toot my own horn, climb the ladder of success, pull out the stops, add fuel to the fire. Friday, open a can of worms, put my foot in my mouth, start the ball rolling, go over the edge. Saturday, pick up the pieces. Isn't that brilliant? Oh, I love it. What a workout. You can use this program without charge. You might want to take it easy at first and then do it faster as you become more proficient. It may be too strenuous for some. So there you are. Hope that amused you. And my spiritual tip. I would like to suggest that for 1 week you spend 10 minutes a day opening the Bible, the world's greatest selling book, or however you want to describe it, more copies sold of the book, I believe, or second most copies, great wisdom in it. 10 minutes a day for just 1 week. Anywhere you like, just open it, read. Put yourself into a spiritual space. Tap into your spirit. Tap into your truth so that you can make wise decisions about taking responsibility. Where and what does that actually mean for you as a weirdo? And if you want to know what a weirdo is, go back to one of my earlier episodes. Rather than you just being unique, you and I are weirdos. Well, that's it. I hope I've provoked some new thinking. I hope the big idea of this question of not being swayed by people telling you it's your responsibility is going to be useful for you. If I've caused you some disquiet and discomfort, that's life. That's what education is about. I learned many years ago and I learned this particularly from Tony Robbins, a great man. Confusion precedes all learning. So if all of this confuses you, wonderful. Get excited because you're about to learn something. Don't forget to visit our websites, covest.com, charlescovest.com. Please subscribe to the podcast, to the YouTube channel. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your family, your friends, the people who work for you, and your networks. I would be most grateful. My books are available on my websites. Passionate People Produce, Passionate Performance. And until next week, embrace your life with passion. Choose to do your own thinking. Embrace the resistance of the mob who want to impose mob violence on you. Do your own thinking and choose to live the life of your dreams, pursuing your passion, pursuing your worthy ideal. Thanks for being with us. I look forward to being with you next week. Bye.